Hi everybody. The United Kingdom was once the symbol of power and heritage because of their 200 years of looting colonies like India.
The West, in its predatory form, came into India in the mid-18th century.
But in spite of all the treasure hunting, now the UK is going through the worst economic and social crisis in its history. As of 2024, while the debt level of Germany stands at 63.74% of its GDP, Ireland stands at 42.5%, India stands at 58.2%, whereas the UK debt stands at 99.5% of their GDP. And you know what's even more worrying? While in other countries the workforce is getting bigger and bigger, in the UK, people are leaving the workforce due to long-term sickness. At the same time, UK's productivity has remained stagnant since 2008 crisis. The hospitals are falling short of nurses, and 45% of the patients have been waiting in an emergency for 4 long hours. And today, there is such a big labor shortage that UK has a shortage of more than 100,000 truck drivers. And all of this put together, UK is seeing the sharpest increase in absolute poverty in 30 long years.
Prices are rising and it hurts.
Inflation above 11%.
That is clearly the highest figure in 40 years.
Can't raise taxes, can't really let debt go much higher.
2 million people in the UK go without food for at least one day in a month. And if you remove London from the UK, the country is as poor as Mississippi, which is the poorest state of America.
So the question is, how did UK's economy fall into such a terrible situation? What are the biggest mistakes that UK made which caused this massive economic crisis? And lastly, what are the lessons that India needs to learn from the fall of UK's economy?
Is the Great Britain really that great? The United Kingdom, it is sliding into a recession.
More people in the UK were pushed into poverty from rate hikes.
The economy is shrinking and the latest economic data does not look good.
The UK's cost of living crisis will cause thousands of premature deaths.
This video is brought to you by Scalar School of Business. You can learn how to become a brilliant business leader with Scalar School of Business. The best part is that they have scholarships up to 100% if you register using the link below. People, India's education system is so messed up that even after studying for 4 years, 35% of our engineers and 30% of our MBA grads are unemployable. But here's where Scalar School of Business is revolutionizing business education in India. They are offering a full-time 18-month PG program in management and technology. And this program is so amazing that it is built and taught by industry leaders who have scaled billion-dollar companies like Uber, Myntra and McKinsey. And to help you thrive in this hyper-competitive market, as a part of the Scalar curriculum itself, you will work on real-world projects, you will build your own business, you will take it to the market, generate revenue and also raise VC capital while studying on campus. And since Scalar has been in the education industry for 7 long years, they already have access to 1,200 plus company partners, which includes Google, Amazon, Flipkart and more. And this is something that no other business school can offer in India right now. In fact, their online programs have been so successful that their placement rates have touched 96% and their median CTC stands at 25 lakh rupees. And now, Scalar School of Business is handpicking only 75 students for their founding cohort starting early September 2024. The best part is that they have scholarships up to 100% if you register using the link below. So if you want to become a brilliant business leader, apply for Scalar School of Business using the link in my description and in my comment section. And now, on with the episode. This is a story that dates back to 2016, and this is when UK decided to exit the European Union. So on 23rd of June 2016, in a special election called the referendum, the people of United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union by a 50-48 vote share. And this is where the chaos in the economy started with something called Brexit.
The UK has voted to leave the European Union.
We got our country back!
Well, the Vote Leave side presented a very optimistic view of what the British economy would look like after Brexit.
Now, before we dive into Brexit, you need to understand a very important part of history, and that is the formation of European Union. Long story short, after the World War II ended, the leaders of European countries realized that if they act as individual countries and if they compete with each other or fight with each other, they'll be wasting a ton of money and a ton of manpower. And if you look at the map of Europe, you will see why it makes sense. Look at this, guys. The European countries are so small that if every country had to spend on military to guard their borders, it would be very costly, right? Similarly, if a country like Hungary wants to trade with the world, it would be a landlocked country with no access to sea at all. So if they wanted access to the North Sea, they would have to pay taxes to Austria and Germany because they would be using their land. So in this futile race of defense and trade taxes, none of the countries would have progressed well at all. This is the reason why in 1952, 6 countries, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg and the Netherlands, they all decided to take their economic relationship to the next level by forming something called the European Coal and Steel Community. And this gave them some incredible advantages. For example, when France needed lots of coal and steel, Germany offered steel and coal to France to help them in post-war reconstruction. Similarly, Germany was able to sell its coal and steel to other members, and it was able to make a profit with steel products to develop its economy and to decrease its debt. Similarly, countries like Italy, Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg, they were able to get access to countries with a larger population like Germany and France. So all of these put together, the businesses in these countries got access to 6 countries with no taxes or opposition. This is how a small union of countries benefited by sharing both resources and access. And this union was so successful that more and more countries started to join this union. And fast forward to today, it is a union with 27 member countries. This is how, ladies and gentlemen, in 1993, this union evolved to become one of the most powerful unions in the world, which we all know today as the European Union. And all these countries got 3 major superpowers by joining the European Union. Now listen to this very carefully, because here's where the heart of UK's economic crisis lies. The first superpower that these countries enjoyed was the superpower of EU citizenship, which means all the citizens of European Union could move and reside freely in any European Union country. Secondly, in the European Union, goods, services and capital could move across national borders without any barriers. So a furniture businessman in Greece could sell his furniture in the UK and there was no extra tax and no trade regulation. And lastly, for the small countries, the European Union gave an unfair advantage of trade negotiation. For example, imagine if a small country like Hungary and a giant like India sit at the negotiation table. Now you tell me, who will have an upper hand in this negotiation? India has a population of 1.4 billion, while Hungary's population is only 10 million. So if we sit down for a bilateral trade agreement, we could tell Hungary that we will give your automobile industry an access to a population of 1.4 billion if you reduce your import taxes by 25%. But Hungary will have to decrease the import duty on Indian automobile by 50%. Why? Because we are a bigger country and we can exploit a small country because we are giving them access to a much bigger market. But you know what, guys? Here's where the European Union came in, and they said instead of an individual country bargaining with India, the entire European Union will sit down with India to negotiate. So now, the European Union is sitting down as a single entity with a population of 447 million people. And this makes them so powerful that while India has a population of 1.4 billion people and a per capita income of $2,700, EU as an entity comes with a population of 450 million people and a per capita income of $52,000. So now, do you realize when European Union as a giant entity sits at the negotiation table with India, the EU has a much better bargaining power against India, even though India has a population of 1.4 billion. So this is such a fantastic arrangement, isn't it? Every country gets better negotiation power, better citizen freedom, better relationship with European powers, and most importantly, you get market access to a much wider population as compared to your own country. Then the question is, why did UK exit the European Union? Well, out of the many reasons, here are 3 of the most important reasons why the United Kingdom exited the European Union. The first reason was that UK thought the European Union benefited more from UK than UK benefited from the European Union. For example, between 2012 to 2016, the average volume of fish caught by the European Union fishermen in British waters was 760,000 tons per year. Whereas the British fishermen caught only 90,000 tons of fish in the EU waters, which was 8 times less than European Union. Similarly, in 2013, UK's gross contribution to the European Union budget was around 17 billion euros, whereas they received back only 6.31 billion euros. Now, if you look at the net contribution of UK, it turns out to be 10.76 billion euros, right? So, if you see, there was a huge disparity in budget contributions among the European Union states. So, this is the reason why the Brits felt like they were being robbed by the European Union. How ironical, isn't it? For a change, the Brits felt like they were being robbed. If you know what I mean, that is hilarious. The second thing that bothered them was immigration. So while the European Union expanded, several countries like Poland, Czech Republic and Hungary got in. And because citizens could move across borders, many people started coming from less developed countries into the United Kingdom. And foreign population almost doubled from 5.3 million in 2004 to over 9.5 million people in 2021, which was about 12% of the entire population of UK. So the Brits felt worried about foreigners entering their land. Again, how ironical, isn't it? The Brits were worried about foreigners coming into their country. This drastically increased strain on public services and housing, lowered wages of workers because of oversupply of labor, and eventually it decreased job opportunities for their own citizens. This was the third problem that UK had. And lastly, the United Kingdom felt that they could easily negotiate better deals with countries like India rather than the European Union doing it for them. These are the reasons why they decided to conduct a referendum to opt out of the European Union. So after the referendum of 50-48, finally, Brexit happened on 23rd of June 2016. But, as it turns out, as of now, things are not going well for UK at all. And this is what the situation in UK looks like.
The picture across England is not much better.
Food prices soared 13.6% in the last 12 months, and record housing costs are piling pressure on UK households.
So the question over here is, what on earth went wrong with Brexit and why is UK in such a terrible situation? Well, the first major hit that the country faced was trade. If you look at the stats, you will realize that European Union was one of UK's largest trading partners. As of 2022, while UK exports to EU accounted for 42% of all their exports, UK imports from the European Union was 48% of all UK imports. So you can imagine how much the UK depended on the European Union for trade. But after Brexit, the UK was no longer a part of the customs union, which allowed them the flow of goods and services among the EU countries without any import duty or customs duty. So after Brexit, UK goods got taxed while moving to every country in the European Union. So to solve this problem, UK thought they could simply sign something called the Free Trade Agreement. For those who don't know, FTA or Free Trade Agreement is when two or more countries agree to trade with each other with no taxes or very less taxes. So the UK thought they could sign the free trade agreement with the European Union countries and they could easily trade with each other without immigrants, without contribution to the EU fund, and without allowing other European countries to exploit the UK. But you know what, guys? Here's where the UK economy faced a big problem. And this is a problem that even India is facing in 2024. So the question is, what is this problem? Ladies and gentlemen, this problem is that UK and India both are not manufacturing driven economies, we are service driven export economies. So we don't make most of our money by exporting products, but by exporting our services. While the UK exports financial services, India exports IT services. So the question over here is, why is a service driven economy so dangerous, and why is manufacturing better for India and UK right now? Well, there are three simple reasons. Number one, manufacturing industries can provide way more employment as compared to service industries, and this is for both skilled as well as unskilled people. For example, while the IT industry constitutes 7.5% of our GDP, the textile industry barely accounts for 2.3% of our GDP. But if you look at the employment that they provide, the numbers are staggering. On the outside, if I asked you which sector would recruit more people, what would you say? Of course, the IT industry employs more people, right? Because their contribution is almost 3 times as much as the textile sector. But you know what, guys? While the IT services industry of India employs 5.43 million people, our textile industry employs 45 million people. And while the IT industry mostly recruits only skilled people, the textile industry employs millions of unskilled people along with the skilled people. So, The manufacturing sector provides way more employment opportunities as compared to the service sector. Secondly, while the service sector is prone to more economic shocks, the manufacturing sector is relatively shock-proof. For example, during the 2008 recession, while the financial services industry and the marketing services took a massive hit, companies like Nestle, Procter & Gamble and Unilever, they were not as badly affected because while the people could cut down their spending on financial and marketing services, they could not cut down on essentials like razors, detergents and baby foods. And lastly, while manufacturing is easily scalable to increase exports, scaling a service company is very, very difficult. For example, if I have to increase the production of iPhones from 10,000 to 20,000 units, I can recruit, train and deploy people within a few weeks. And on top of that, all I have to do is get new machines and run at higher capacity. But if I have to go from 20 to 30 clients in my financial services business, it is very, very difficult. And by the way, guys, unless you are an entrepreneur, you can't understand the pain of what I'm saying. So if you can't understand this context of the pain of expansion, just talk to any service industry business owner and they will tell you everything. So long story short, the manufacturing sector has three major advantages over the service sector. And these advantages revolve around employment, scale and resistance to economic shocks. But now, if you look at UK's economy, 81% of UK's GDP is dependent only on services. And if you see their production, it has been stagnant for over a decade. And this is the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, two things happened. When the service industry had to comply with 27 different countries for legal and financial services after Brexit, the service industry of UK got disrupted. On top of that, they saw two major crises with COVID and the Russia-Ukraine war.
It's been revealed COVID-19 has dealt the UK's economy its biggest blow in more than 300 years.
The Office for National Statistics has revealed the pandemic led to a 9.9% drop in the country's GDP over 2020.
The actions we have taken to sanction Putin's regime are not cost-free for us at home. The invasion of Ukraine presents a risk to our recovery, as it does to countries around the world. We should be in no doubt. Behind Putin's invasion is a dangerous calculation.
So as we all know, two economic shocks resulted into yet another disruption in both the service as well as the manufacturing sector. This is the second reason why the UK is suffering, which is over-dependence on service industry. And lastly, now because of Brexit, UK is also witnessing a labour crisis. Long story short, as of 2021, 200,000 EU citizens have left UK after Brexit. In addition to that, UK has a shortage of more than 100,000 truck drivers. And what's even worse is that there is also a shortage of 30,000 nurses in hospitals. And in all, as of 2024, there are 889,000 vacancies in the UK, because of which sectors like hospitality and transport are struggling. So now, UK is finding it extremely difficult even while the global economy is growing. And to make matters worse, the pound sterling is depreciating, which is further causing inflation and it is making people poor. So all of this put together, UK has now entered into a vicious cycle where the government is not spending on health and welfare for people, people are not able to work because of long-term illness, these people are neither earning nor spending, so again, the economy is not growing at all. As a result, neither the government nor the businesses have money to expand or earn. This is nothing but the cause and effect relationship between the government spending, public health, workforce participation and economic growth. This is the story of the European Union, Brexit and its impact on the UK economy. And this entire story teaches us three very, very important lessons for the Indian economy. Lesson number 1, never consult stupid people for an important decision. In this case, the decision of Brexit was not made by the economists of the country, but by the people of UK who obviously did not know anything about running the economy. So if you ask an unemployed worker if we should ban foreign workers or not, he will obviously say yes, right? Because that would give him more demand and money even if he is incompetent. But what on earth does a worker know about running a nation? So if you consult the people of the country for a critical economic decision, it will lead to a disaster because a mob doesn't understand economics. Lesson number 2. There are many economists out there who believe that India can grow by boosting its service industry. But while the focus on service industry is absolutely important, it is equally or perhaps more important to grow our manufacturing sector. Because if we want to grow our economy and secure our people from economic shocks, it is easier with manufacturing than with services. And lastly, always remember, if we want to grow our economy in the 21st century, globalization for us is as important as self-reliance. So we must be self-reliant. At the same time, we should not hesitate to trade with the world, because self-reliance is not equal to isolation. These are the lessons that India needs to learn from the economic crisis in UK. And I just hope, as citizens of the country, you learn something valuable from this case study. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.